All right, welcome to another video. Today we're going to go over this free-for-all KVK. So last video I made was 4 days ago, right? 1960 actually had a lot more territories. So let's actually start out with where I was wrong. I thought 1093 would actually lose momentum and get drained faster, but they actually eventually push 1960 all the way to this corner. And then for the last 2 days or so, 1960 has been holding this. If you ask me my prediction right now, I think it's about 50-50. If there were no other kingdoms involved and KVK was another 20 days longer instead of like 8 days or 9 days, I think 1960 will end up winning. Their tenaciousness is incredible, right? Like Ahara, I think, is the biggest streamer from there that people follow. And then, I'm Chinese, I speak Mandarin, so I can understand what she's saying, what they're talking about. It's not just unlimited pilots. A lot of these players are piloting, they're playing their own accounts and they're just on all the time playing. Okay, so where I was wrong was I didn't think 1093 would be able to overwhelm them so much, and I thought 1960 could come back sooner, but as you can see the last few days, it's at a stalemate, and a lot of times 1960 is actually starting to gain some territory. So if it was just 1v1, 1960, in my opinion, is the stronger kingdom if you're playing the long game. But now we actually have the White Walkers, right? 2605 over here, poking around over here, trying to burn through here and maybe get to the backside of 1960. And then also they're up here, trying to come through this pass and eventually maybe make it down to here. I don't know, it's going to be a while, right? It's because 1093 just keeps building a new fort, and 2605 is letting them do it. There's a lot of like crazy stuff going on. I don't think people understand when it's a free-for-all, what's the objective? Your objective is actually to win, okay? And if your objective is to win, 2605 is doing exactly what they should do. They should kind of harass both sides. Ideally for them, if they can push up to here and get over here, they should just double team whoever is winning, right? So if 1093 is winning, they'll just start putting pressure on 1093. If 1960 is winning, they'll put pressure on 1960, and they just keep going back and forth to drain both sides more. Okay, so I talked about the snipe and the clam before, where two sides are fighting, and then you have a fisherman waiting in the background for them to be trained. If I was 2605, I don't know if it's possible. There's a lot of other factors at play. I would actually form an alliance with the G4 down here. So the G4 is pushing close, right? So one G4 is over here. They're about to push to this pass. Another G4 is already at this pass, right? And now 1093 is going to be more and more distracted. So 1093, their chance of winning is if they can just play defense here and here, so the G4s can't get in, and just hold on for as long as possible, right? Because I think they only have 8 more days left, and they do have a lot of players, but you could tell they're starting to slow down. And at this point, they have to be careful, because if they lose too many player bases, right? So when you're draining, the smaller players are going to go first, and 1960 could start pushing territory over here. It's going to be a huge problem for them. Okay, 2605 should do exactly what they're doing. At this point right now, I would do exactly what they're doing. Maybe put a little bit more pressure on 1960, so they have to fight two fronts, because since they seem like they're actually getting the upper hand over here as far as draining 1093. So if you're projecting into the future, that should be what they're doing. This group before up here is not doing anything, so I think they've pretty much given up, right? They were kind of burning force earlier. You can see they're not even pushing out now. So it's really 2 G4s down here, 2605 over here and up here, able to put a little bit of pressure on 1960 or 1093, and then 1093 and 1960 are fighting the pass. Fighting in Kingsland. If it was 1v1, I'm actually even more impressed in 1960 than I thought I would be, just because of the tenaciousness to be on the receiving end and losing for so many days and still hold up and almost outlast your opponent. That's just very, very impressive. And obviously, we've all seen 1093, right? When they have momentum, when they have all the players, it's overwhelming. No kingdom could stand up to them if it was like a 3-day fight. But it's not a 3-day fight. It's going to be a lot longer. And I do expect 1960 to start gaining more and more momentum, just because 1093 should drain faster than 1960. I don't know who's going to win yet, because a lot of this actually will depend on what the G4s and 2605 does, which makes this really interesting. And I think at this point, everyone can agree this is at least one of the more entertaining KVKs we've seen because of the free-for-all, right? So the whole idea that a free-for-all is stupid, I don't know. Maybe it's not fun to play just because even when you are clearly the better kingdom, you can still lose, right? So that could be frustrating. But for anyone watching, this is definitely very entertaining. And just me personally, I love strategy, like the back and forth. If the goal is to win, you don't want to do anything real shady. But the free-for-all never said you can't temporarily ally with someone else to give yourself a better chance to win, right? Why wouldn't 2605 group up with the G4s or temporarily ally with the G4s so they can actually almost manipulate these two sides that are in Kingsland to wear them out, to really drain them, and then maybe hope to snipe the Zig at the end. Okay, so I do kind of wish I made this video before. Chizgul made a video, but he made a video today. I agree with almost everything he's saying. The people that are making fun of 2605, it's ridiculous. We're human beings. We're all gonna prefer if a kingdom wins over another, right? Like if you're asking me 1093 or 1960, I would actually like to see 1093 win, just because I like to see someone zero go and see how they recover. Nobody wants to root for just like the overlord that just keeps winning, right? And then if I was rooting for a side, I would actually root for either a G4 or 2605 to get the Zig at the end, because that means this would be the most entertaining KVK we've ever had. If somehow 2605 or a group of 4 ends up getting the Zig. In the meantime, super impressive watching them fight on the field. Even though 1960 looks like they have a small territory, I think they've stabilized enough where they'll be able to start pushing back. It's just whether they have enough time before KVK is over, or will 1093 be able to hold on long enough. And then there's all these external factors that could actually swing the KVK in whatever way. It's by no means over. If I had to give a prediction, I think right now, 1960 probably actually has the highest probability to win. But it's super, super entertaining. And I actually hope that we see more KVKs like this in the future, because we just don't know what's going to happen, right? And people that are making the comments, right? Like, what do you expect for a free-for-all KVK? Like, is 2605 supposed to just not put pressure on 1960? Especially when they now seem to have stabilized. Like their goal should be to help these two sides drain each other faster so they could come in and maybe sneak in like a victory, or at least get into Kingsland and have some fun, right? And the G4s, they should have the same goal. I really think they should group up, because if you see up here, when 1093 has put some resources into fighting and defending this area, defending the fort when they're building, or when 1960 has moved over here to defend against 2605, they're clearly just stronger than 2605. So the G4 or 2605, they're probably not going to be able to overtake 1093 or 1960 by themselves, even if they're drained. They're probably going to need help, and they need to take advantage of when both sides are very drained. There's probably going to be a small window, maybe like 3 or 4 days from now, when both sides are even more drained. And their goal right now, 2605 and the G4, is supposed to just kind of put pressure on whichever side that's winning to drain them even faster and win. And here's just like a possible scenario. I think 1960 should try to push into here again, because if they get into here, they would have a lot less pressure from 2605, but it's also very hard to take a pass and then build a territory when you don't have territory in Kingsland, right? But if they could actually move down here, all of a sudden it would really change the dynamic. There's a lot of, it's easier said than done, right? But this is a super interesting KVK, but what you're going to look for is in the next day or two, right? I think 2 days off. See if 1960 can start regaining some momentum and maybe push out a little bit, because then you'll know that momentum is going to swing more and more in 1960's favor. And then also just what the G4s on this pass and on this pass, what they're doing, right? Are they going to be able to burn through the fort? Is 1093 going to have to divert more resources just to play defense and hold on? And then what 2605 does. By far the most interesting KVK I have ever watched, because of the free-for-all, and I think it's awesome, and it's awesome to watch. I think it would be really awesome to fight in, and and strategize in, just because you're going to get so much fighting. And even when you lost, you could still do stuff that would make a difference in the outcome, right? The strongest kingdom in the game, at this point, I think it's conclusive. It's 1960, because they if it was just 1-on-1, they would have been able to hold on to here, and I think they would eventually be able to push back. Right? If the KVK is not long enough, 1093 will win. If it's a shorter window, 1093 is the most impressive. But if you're talking about just overall long game, 1960 is the most impressive. Okay, and of just full transparency, I'm rooting for 2605 or the G4s. I think that would be the most fun. If there is a kingdom that I would like to see lose the most, it would be 1960. No animosity towards them. I just like to see someone's 0-0 go. I don't like to see undefeated kingdoms. I like to see, once they lose, how they recover. It could even come back stronger. Who knows, right? But it will be really interesting to see. And 1093 is just really impressive. Like it's cool to see like an old model, big 4 alliance kingdom doing their thing. That's why they were that big to begin with. And that's my thoughts on this KVK.